We share
facts within the scope of applied mathematics.
It is all about understanding facts and sharing with others.
Learning continues. We are learning to know, understand, and share with others. Please subscribe to our channel if you like our videos.
Welcome to the second part of the lecture notes. As I've said earlier, that I would like to speak to everything that's taught in the class. So we are going to the part 2. Like I've said earlier, I said this one is also 10 pages, as you can see it, 10 pages. So it's only the 5th part that is actually like 15 pages. So let's go into this now. So we are going to continue from where we stop at the end of part 1, where we are trying to look at particles and why is the position of a particle a vector quantity. So let's take a look at this example. Now we have a particle that is moving in a straight line and with a constant velocity. Like I've said, constant velocity means that the velocity at the two time, let's say at t1 and t2, they are the same. Okay. Now, moving with a constant velocity and its position at time t seconds in meter is this. Now, let's take a look at it. As time t equals to 1, the position is 6 meters. At time t equals to 5, the position is minus 12. Then we're asked to find the velocity of the particle. So the velocity here means that the position at the larger time minus the position at the lower time divided by the higher time minus the lower time. So here now you can see that we have minus 12 minus 6, then divided by 4. That will give me something like minus 18 over 4. So I can divide the numerator and denominator by 2. Then we have 9 over 2 meters per second. And you can see here that we have negative. Why do we have negative here? Because we have a negative position. Negative position, that is minus 12. So which means that the object actually moves from the center to the left hand side. So with this example, you can see that the velocity is minus 9 over 2 meters per second. So please take note of the unit. Always take note of the unit. Now, while we're learning all this, all this thing we are learning here, we can actually put it on the Cartesian plane. And when we put it on the Cartesian plane, then we can further exploit, we can further study the motion of the particle. And that is the origin of mathematics. Because provided we can draw it on the Cartesian plane, then it means that it's actually mathematical. Now let's take a look at the velocity time graph. Now look at this example now. We have a particle moving at 5 meters per second for 4 seconds. Now we can put this one in, we can draw it. If the particle has its velocity in meters per second, that is unit. And the horizontal is time, the unit is seconds. So if we have 5 now, and look at it now for 4 seconds. Now let's close it and let's sketch this. Now the question is, what is the area of this closed region? What is the area? The area is 5 times 4. That is 5 meters per second times 4 seconds. Excuse me, this is actually seconds. It's 4 seconds. It's 4 seconds. So 5 times 4 is 20. Now look at it. We have seconds raised to power plus 1 here. We have seconds raised to power minus 1 here. So by the time you join it together, you see that this one seconds will cancel this seconds. So you have 5 times 4. That will give you 20 meters. So the displacement is 20 meters. And I can ask them, so what does that mean? It means that the area of velocity time graph is displacement. Don't forget that. Let me say it again. The area of a velocity time graph is displacement. Now let's remember. Why do we call it displacement? Why not distance? We shall call it displacement because we have a negative velocity. It's possible to have a negative velocity. And in such a case of a negative velocity, of course, you cannot say that. We need to call it displacement. Now, if a particle has a constant velocity of minus 5 meters per second and moves for 4 seconds, look at this diagram now. Now, you will remember that this is a Cartesian plane now. This is a graph now. So here now, if you have minus vertical here, then we have plus vertical here. We have positive time, and we have negative time. So the area here is now minus 5 meters per second times 4 seconds, and that will give minus 10. So the area now, the area on the negative axis now, the area of the velocity time graph is actually called displacement. Now let's take a look at the position time graph. In this case of position time graph, we shall focus on the gradient. So our attention here is to really focus on the gradient. Gradient. Now positive velocity now. Assume that a particle moves with a constant velocity from point A to point B, as shown below. At time t equals to 1, the position of the particle is 3 meters to the right of O. That is, x at 1 is 3. This thing here, it means that at time t equals to 1, the position of the particle is 3 meters. At time t equals to 4, the position is 9 meters. Let me write it again. X at 4 is 9. Okay, now let's try to draw it. This is the origin O now. Now at 1 second, we have the position of particle to be, which is 3 meters. Now at 4 seconds now, we have the particle B and the position is what is 9. Okay, now the displacement, which is the change of position. Look at the displacement, change of position of the particle is 6 meters. How do I get 6 meters? 9 minus 3, that is 6 meters. Over the time of interval of 1 or 4. Time is 4 and 1. Okay, so from here, we can say that the velocity is what? 6 over 3. That is 9 minus 3 over 4 minus 1. That means that is 2 meters per second. Now the position time graph for this motion is this. Let's look at it now. Look at it. When the time is 1, we have the position to be 4. When the time is 4, we have the position to be 9. So we have a straight line now. Look at the straight line. The straight line is actually increasing. That is why we call this title, we call it positive velocity. Why do we have positive velocity? We have positive velocity because what? As the time is increasing, the position is also increasing. So we can call this one a positive, or we call it increasing relationship between the position and time. So as you can see now, you can see that the gradient is s of 4 minus x of 1 over 4 minus 1. Then the change over time, we have 2 meters per second. So good. Now let's take a look at another one, which is called negative velocity. Assuming that a particle moves with a constant velocity from A to B, as shown below, at time t equals to 1, the position of the particle is 3 meters to the right. This x of 1 is 3. Then at time t equals to 4 seconds, its position is 3 meters to the left of O. That is, x of 4 is minus 3. Now let's draw it now. Look, this is the origin now. When t is 1, then you have it to be 3. Then when t is 4, you have it to be minus 3. Now, what about the displacement? Let's calculate the displacement here. The displacement will now be from A to B. You will notice that I cannot say the displacement is B to A, because I know from the statement that there is a negative displacement already. There's a negative. So the best thing is for me to capture that negative displacement. So in that case, I'm having minus 3 minus 3. That means that from A to B. Now, remember that from A to B now, this is the origin. If it's moving from A to B, this point here is the origin. So if this is origin, then it's actually going to the left. And if it's going to the left, that means that the first distance the particle traveled will be negative. The second distance will be negative. So we have minus 6 meters per second. Minus 6 meters. So by the time you do it, you see that the position time graph is minus 2 meters per second. So let's draw it now. Graphically, we have the vertical values of the position. You have the horizontal time. So when t is 1, we have it. Then when t is 4, we have minus 3. You see now? So you see now that the line is decreasing now. It's decreasing. Okay? Okay? Now let's go to another example. A particle moves in a straight line with a constant velocity so that at time t seconds, the position of the particle is x meters. With respect to the origin O, assume that at time 2, the position is minus 3. At time 5, the position is 6. Find the following. Number 1, we are asked to find the displacement over the time of 2 to 5. Of course, you can see now from 2 to 5. So at the same time, we are asked to find the constant velocity. So the displacement now will be x of 5 minus x of 2, because we are finding it over the O interval. That means that we are having 6 minus 3, and that is 9 meters. You notice that here now, we are only talking about the displacement over the time from 2 to 5. But if you have to do it from 5 to 2, that means that this is the origin. If this is the origin, then it's going to displace. But here we just find the displacement over the time of 2 to 5. All together now. So we have the displacement to be 9 meters. Okay, and then we can find the velocity to be this.
Let us consider some tutorial questions. Use the language of mathematics to explain velocity time graph. Note, remark on the area of the graph. What does negative area of velocity time graph implies? Support your discussion with at least an example. Use the concept of position time graph to explain 1. Slope of position time graph. 2. The rate of change in position with respect to time.
So let's go to the fourth page, which is page 14 of lecture note acceleration. Whenever we put our foot down on the accelerator, on the acceleration, the car speeds up or accelerates. Definition: the rate of change of the velocity of a particle with respect to time. If the velocity of the particle changes at a constant rate, then this rate is called the constant acceleration. It's called constant acceleration. So let's take a look at average speed, average acceleration. Provided the velocity of the particle is known at 2 points, the average acceleration of the particle during the time interval is defined as this. So we have changing in velocity or changing in time. So we have instantaneous acceleration at time t vector. This is found by taking smaller and smaller value of the t and corresponding smaller values of the x, the b. So this is the origin of differentiation. This is the origin of differentiation. You have a with the limit as the t tends to 0, then the v over dt. Now here you can see now that you have the v dt. So this one will give me the second derivative of the space of position with respect to the second derivative of time. So remarks: average and instantaneous acceleration can be either positive or negative. Average and instantaneous acceleration can be either positive or negative. Why? Because the position here can be negative, it can be positive as well. So if x here can be negative and positive, definitely the derivative, the second derivative, can also be positive or negative. When the particle is slowing down or its speed is decreasing, then the particle is said to be decelerating. The particle is said to be decelerating. What is an important differential relation involving the displacement velocity and acceleration along the path? Now let's take a look at this very well now. What we are asking now is that is it possible for us to come up with a differential relation that has to do with time, that has to do with displacement, that has to do with velocity, and that has to do with acceleration? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Now let's go back here now. Let me show you now. If we have our velocity to be the x dt, no, we can make dt the circular formula. Let's make dt the circular formula. So in that case, we now have velocity is equals to dx over dt. So if you make dt the circular formula, you have this first expression. You have this first expression. Now let's go back to acceleration as well. You know, acceleration is dv dt. If you make dt the circular formula again, you have this one is equals to this one. So in that case, means that in the first expression, the second expression, the t we can equate together. So if you equate, you now see that this one here is telling us about the change in displacement with time to give us velocity. This one is telling us about the change in velocity per time to give us acceleration. So if you make the t the circular formula, then you have this expression. So from this expression, we can take the last two. So if you cross multiply, you have a ds is equals to v dv. So we have this expression. So looking at this expression, you can say that is a differential relation that has to do with a acceleration, displacement, and velocity. So that is the expression now. So let's go now. Let's look at this example under acceleration. We have a velocity of a particle moving in a straight line changes uniformly at a constant rate of change from u meter per second to 5 meter per second over 1 second. Then its constant acceleration is, so we have 5 meter per second minus 2 meter per second over 1 second. That means that 5 minus 2 is 3 divided by 1. Now take note of it. You know this is over seconds. By the time seconds is coming up, if you give me seconds minus 1. So seconds minus 1, we have meter per seconds minus 1 already. So meter seconds minus 1. So that will give me meter seconds minus 2. So I'm saying it again. Please pay attention to the unit. In this aspect of just 104, we are going to focus on the units. Please take note of it now. Let's now go to the summary of facts. You know, in the class, I explained to you the contribution of Galileo Galilei, and I said he actually did something wonderful. See, everything we are learning now is based on what Galileo Galilei did. So let's take a look at the following summary of facts. There are many, but let's take a look at it. We enjoy all of them. Number 1, when an object, for instance, stone, is thrown upward, it rises to a particular height. I'm talking about you have an object and you throw it upward. You know, at the initial time now, you have the velocity to be 0. But when you throw it up, the stone will continue going up. Then at the point, the velocity will be 0. Then it will come down. Now, when an object, for instance, stone, is thrown upwards, it rises to a particular height and then falls back to the ground. This is based on the assumption that air resistance or drag can be neglected. Can you see that now? So look at this fact now. It's actually pointing to what Galileo Galilei was talking about. It's very important. So when an object is thrown upwards, at first we have the time to be 0 and we have the initial velocity to be 0. But as the object is going upward, then the velocity starts to increase. Then at the point the velocity is 0, then it turns down. Why? Because air resistance or drag can be neglected. Let's go to number 2. When an object is thrown up, it experiences a retardation due to the gravitational attraction of the Earth, which tends to pull the object downward. See, as we are standing on the surface of the Earth, there's this law that said, let me say it in Yoruba. Okay, so many of you don't know Yoruba, though. Let me proceed. It just said that if an object is thrown up, that there is a kind of force that tends to put every object towards the center of the Earth. So that force is there. It tries to put everything towards the center of the Earth. That is why you can see that if you should throw anything upward, if you throw anything, the force will generally push the object down. There's not the object that can stay in the sky without anything holding it and it will remain there. It should definitely go down, because we are still talking of this is only true below the orbit. We have orbit where we have moon. But from the orbit upward, another thing is happening. But from the orbit downward, this thing is true. But when an object is thrown up, it experiences a retardation due to gravitational attraction. Number 3, the stone will thus gradually lose speed as it moves upward, and it comes to rest briefly at the highest point and begin to fall downwards. Number 4, as it falls, its speed gradually increases again because of the acceleration due to gravity, and that is 9.8 meters per second. Now 5, freely falling object is one moving freely under the influence of gravity alone. Now let's take a look at number 6. Objects considered to be freely falling, they are 1, they are propelled upwards, they are propelled downwards, and they are released from rest. These are the 3 points. Now number 7, the free fall condition considered gravity only. Thus it is a must to neglect other effects like air resistance. Why? Because if you throw both of them, they will definitely get to the floor. So we can actually neglect air resistance. Now let's consider number 8. Let's consider a hammer and a paper tissue. If you drop from the same height, the hammer will hit the ground first. Air resistance will slow the tissue down. Note, if we neglect air resistance, both objects will hit the ground at the same time. Are we together now? If we neglect air resistance, both objects will hit the ground at the same time. But remember that this is true because of vacuum that is considered. So if we neglect air resistance, both objects will hit the ground at the same time. So, but don't forget that in this study now, we are talking about particle. And we are saying particle must have weight. Do you notice? Okay. So tissue paper is not a very typical example of a particle that we are studying in this course. Tissue paper, or perhaps a sheet of paper. The mass of a sheet of paper is very, very small. In fact, in terms of gram, it's still small in terms of gram. And don't forget that the SI unit of mass is kg. So please take note. So let's proceed now. If we neglect air resistance, both objects will hit the ground at the same time. Now, mathematics. Now let's take a look at the following Newton's law of motion. Now we have the final velocity, initial velocity plus at. We have the final velocity squared equals to initial velocity squared plus 2ax, and we have x equals to u0c plus 1/2at squared. So if we assume objects falling near the Earth's surface are affected only by gravity, air resistance is negligible, then what are the 2 basic facts governing their motion? Number 1, objects accelerate at the same rate. Yes, objects accelerate at the same rate, independent of their mass, size, and composition. They accelerate at the same rate. Now, the gravitational acceleration is constant. That is, it does not change as the object falls. That is why we say that if you throw an object from here to here, the g is 9.8 meters per second. So if you have the object here and it's coming down, or you have the object here that is coming up, the acceleration is the same. Is the same as So let's go to the 7th page now. Now we are now going to focus on curvilinear now. Curvilinear motion. You know, like I've said, that curvilinear motion is talking about 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions. That is why if you are studying curvilinear, we need to use the concept of vectors. We need to use the concept of vector. So there's no way we can study it without using the concept of vector. You cannot use the concept of vector. So let's consider a particle moving along a curve. Let's consider a particle moving along a curve with the given parametric equation. We have our x to be f of t, we have our y to be g of t, we have our z to be h of t. Now the position vector is this. The position vector is s of I, y of j, z of k. That is the position vector. Let us differentiate the position. Don't forget, like we said earlier, that by the time you differentiate position, you have what? You have velocity. So if you differentiate now, you now have, you know, each of them is a component dependent on t. So we can differentiate each of them too. Okay, so because if you differentiate everything, it's more or less as you can differentiate each of them too. So additivity. So we can differentiate x, we can differentiate y, we can differentiate z. So what about the magnitude of velocity, speed? Now we have the RDT. So the magnitude of the velocity is talking about the speed. You know, here we are not interested in the direction. You only need to know the amount of the velocity. So now let's take a look. How do we get it? The absolute value of the RDT will give me square root of the square, the component, you square this one, you square this one. Okay. Now the acceleration of the particle is, now we now have the acceleration to be the second derivative of position. We have the, now we can also calculate the magnitude of the acceleration. How do you get the magnitude now? You find the square of each component, then you find the square root. Let's solve example 1 now. Example 1, if the position of a particle is denoted as this. Now the question is, we have to find the velocity, the magnitude of the velocity, which is the speed, acceleration, then the magnitude of the acceleration. Let's solve it together. So we want to find the RDT now. So each now we're going to differentiate each component. So if you differentiate this, will give me 3t squared. This will give me 2. The t here is t raised to power 1. Then 1 minus 1 is 0. So any raised to 0 is what is 1. So we have this. And what about this one? We have minus 3 minus 2. Then we give us 6. Then expression minus 2t. That's how to differentiate exponential. Now what about trigonometry? Trig. If you differentiate sine, you have cos. But don't forget that if you are to differentiate sine 5t, you need to differentiate what is inside. Now if you differentiate 5t, you have 5. Then 5 times 2 will give you 10. So that is how we get this one to be the velocity. And don't forget, we're dealing with curvilinear. So we need to specify the direction because we're dealing with 2 or more directions. And for curvilinear, it's 2 or more dimensions. So here now we are having just only 3 dimensions, I, j, and k. So now let's find the magnitude now. In this case now, we can find the magnitude at any time. I can ask you to find the magnitude of the velocity at time 5. So what do we need to do now? We evaluate this at t equals to 5. So we have this expression. Now 18. What about the magnitude? We find the magnitude of the square root of square of each of them. We have to 140. So what about the acceleration? We differentiate the second time. So I'm telling you this, please try as much as possible to know how to differentiate functions. Okay? So by the time you differentiate, then let's find the magnitude of acceleration at t equals to 0. So by the time you say t equals to 0, t equals 0, you see that sine 0 is 0, since t we give you 0, then it's only this one that remains. Meanwhile, exponential minus 2, 0, we give you 0. Anything minus 0 is 1, then you have minus 2. And what about the magnitude? It is 2. So let's look at this example again. A particle moves along a curve whose parametric equations are x equals to, we have this to be x, we have this to be x, then we have this to be y, we have this to be z. So where t is time, so find its velocity and acceleration at any time. So if you have to find the magnitude, or we have to find the magnitude of the velocity and acceleration at t equals to 0. So let's take a look at the position. The position vector is this. This is x, y, and z. Now what about the velocity? Velocity now is I want to differentiate this. So when you differentiate this, you differentiate this, you differentiate, you differentiate. Then what about the acceleration? You differentiate this one again. Then let's get the velocity at t equals to 0 now. This is the vector now. Then what about the acceleration at t equals 0? This is it. So that is it. So what about the magnitude now? The magnitude now is the magnitude of velocity at t equals 0 now is we find the square root of each of the components of each of it. So we have again, we have the acceleration as well. So let's go to example 3. Example 3, a particle travels so that its acceleration is given by this. So we have the acceleration now. But if the particle is located at this point at initial time and is moving with a constant velocity by this, we're asked to find the velocity and we're asked to find the distance of the particle at t equals 0. It's very simple. You know, we have an acceleration, but we know that if you integrate acceleration, you have velocity. And when you integrate, definitely you have a constant of integration. So by the time we have the constant of integration, we need to find the constant. So we use this value at t equals 0. And at the same time, for us to find the second constant, because by the time you integrate velocity again, you have the displacement, then you need to add that constant again. We've solved this problem in the class, but let's take a look at it again now. This is the acceleration now. This is the second derivative with respect to position. This is the first derivative to velocity, then we have it to be this. So if you integrate now, you integrate each component. Please, I'm saying it again, go and learn how to differentiate and integrate simple functions. So we have this expression. So what about v now? We have this to be v, then plus c1. So we need to find c1. So what do we use? We use this condition that v equals to 4i minus 3j plus 2k at t equals to 0 to find c1. So what does that mean now? Look at it now. When v is this at t equals to 0, so you put this to be your v, then in this integral you set it to be 0, then plus c1. That's how we obtain this. So by the time you do everything raised by 0 will disappear, since 0 cos 0 will give you 1, then you have 3k, then you have c1. So we have this to be the constant c1. So you put the constant c1 back to the velocity. So this happens to be the constant c1 before, then you have it like that. So you merge it, I component, JJ component, KK component, you merge them together. So we have the velocity function now in terms of vector. So the next thing now is for us to find the displacement. So we need to integrate this one again. So look at it now. The position is now the integral of the velocity. So we integrate this one again. We have another constant of integration. So look at it. We learned that the particle is located at this at t equals to 0. So we use this. So you know that this one is the same thing as 1i minus 3j plus 2k at t equals 0. So in this case, you set r to be this, then you set t to be 0 in this expression. And then you set t to be 0, so you have this. So what about you are finding your c2 now? By the time you find your c2, which is your c2 now, so you now find, you return it back to this position vector, which is r. So you change it on to be your c2. So you merge all everything together. And that is it. So we have a small class.